Dark rock is what you got when the mother bring it in.
What's up, guys? You were tuned in to another episode of The Boyd. Got a great show on tonight. I've got Art Lavender. He's going to be talking to us about whatever Art Lavender chooses to talk to us about. And you can also make this show even more awesome by calling in and adding to it. 904-638-5119. You know we'd love to hear from you. Art, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. You were on last week with DJ Lex. That was good. I really liked that show. Did you know all that stuff about the whole DJ thing, where they're manipulating the crowd and working with the club owner and all that?
I kind of grew up around it. You know, as we were talking about the track that you played on the intro, 16, 17-year-old riding around with my buddy as he was DJing birthday parties, and he's kind of exploded, and it's where I was kind of introduced to the DJ movement.
That's okay. So it all started really with this DJ Doc Rock so I played that track specifically because Art wanted to go ahead and have that on as his opening track, almost like he's a UFC fighter coming into the cage, you know. But that's really cool that you go that far back with DJ Doc Rock. I mean, does he ever do you guys still keep in touch and stuff?
Oh yeah, through Facebook, through text.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. That's really cool, man. That's really cool. Well, so since this is your show, and I did this to DJ Lex last time, and I think I'm going to start a new sort of tradition. So for those of you out there that are interested in being on the show someday, one of the things I want to do is sort of get an idea of who you are, and once you do a sort of a bio section, from that point on, if you show up again on the show, you don't have to go through this again, but I'm going to have to subject Art to this. So let's start it off, Art. So if you could, describe to us where you are in life. Like, how would you describe where you are in life right now?
You know, when you said that you were going to ask me that question, that really threw me for a loop, because I think it's really an own individual perspective on where I think I may sit, or where you may think you may sit in life. I can say that I feel that I'm pretty fortunate in being able to find something I'm very passionate about from a career standpoint, and that allows me to really give back to people in a way that sometimes your career may not. From a professional level, I feel pretty good where I'm at, but always at that point where I'm never satisfied, and I'm always able to push myself to go a little bit further.
So what do you do?
So I manage the hiring for a large market within our firm, and focus on the hiring of licensed professionals in that area.
And well, so I want to talk to you more about that probably in a little bit. So I guess to recap, so where I know you said it's hard to describe based on whatever perspective you're looking at, but from your perspective, how would you describe where you are? And I know it's a sort of a broad question. If I'm purposely leaving off any boundaries on that.
I know you are. Yeah, I know you're purposely doing that. Where would I define where I'm at right now?
Yeah.
Professionally, in a place that has the ability to both impact individuals as well as a company, and feel I'm in a pretty damn good place, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, so like I said, we'll get back to to what you do, because I have some questions about that, and I'm interested in hearing some aspects of that, of your job, etc. So you're in this good place now. So if you could, for a couple minutes, sort of describe what brought you to this place, and start from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
From the beginning. I'll start from, we'll just say after high school, it'd be easier.
All right.
So, followed my passion at that point in time of going into the military. I was raised in a military family, and I knew that.
What branch?
Army.
Okay.
So I knew that's where I wanted to go. Kind of coming up around that my entire life, that was very familiar with me. Going through JRTC in high school, I knew I was very good at it, so decided to join the service at that point in time. Was in for almost 9 years, and I served in Hawaii, I served in Fort Eustis, Virginia, and then left out of the military due to injuries that I had. So upon getting out, I jumped on the IT movement. You know, I had some folks that left prior to me that became IT techs and was telling me how good it was. Went to school, became Microsoft certified, and then moved down south closer to my family looking for an opportunity, and actually ended up with America Online. So was a tech for them for probably 3-4 months until I networked around with a few people here in Jacksonville and discovered an opportunity with UPS. Became a senior tech with UPS for 2 years. So I was managing a lot of their IT stuff here in the hub in Jacksonville.
They're like maintaining their networks and stuff like that?
Networks, telecom, shipping systems, all of that. And things the drivers walk around with and scan the packages, all of that was part of our responsibility. Then decided to jump off of UPS and become a consultant. Worked at JEA for a year as a consultant and managing their security there, managing board of directors, also managing the Duval Health Department, their systems. And then upon looking for another position, I ran into a recruiter while he was helping me look for something out there. Asked him what he was doing and told him I thought it was pretty interesting. I wanted to work with people, but I wanted to...
Like a corporate recruiter? Or
like a headhunter.
Okay.
Yep, he was basically a headhunter. And...
So glad my dog finally decided to sit down. You know, he was
He's
quiet.
hyper.
He was quiet this whole time. Before the show started, as soon as I hit record, he has to clack around, walk around. He has to start drinking and eating. I mean, I can't tell him not to. But why does he have to wait right when you're...
It's the music.
Well,
That's what it was.
Yeah, I think that got him all right. All right, well, good. He's sitting down. Let's just make sure he doesn't get back up. But okay, so you met this headhunter, and you started asking him, the headhunter, about his job.
Yeah, about his job. And it gave me the opportunity to work with people while maintaining my IT knowledge that I had. Because I was going to be recruiting IT
For
professionals.
IT? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
for companies. And, you know, it turned into an immediate opportunity to work for them. And that was with Robert Half. And
Okay.
grew up from when they had just a few people on staff to actually managing one of their IT divisions here. So
Wow.
4.5 years later, then that led me to where we are now. And I've been in the seat now for a little over 6 years.
So what do you like so much about the recruiting? What do you like so much about your role? I know you said you like helping people, but there's lots of ways to help people. So what's drawing you to this particular field?
That's a good question, because very few careers you feel that you have an immediate impact. And many folks that sit there and they do their job day to day, but they don't see, all right, how does my little bit of work help the business? And as a recruiter, especially as a corporate recruiter, you make an immediate impact by hiring the right individuals to do the work and benefit the company long term, hopefully. But at the same time, you also help the individual by placing them potentially could be in their dream job.
Do you follow up on people that you hire?
Follow up on people for a number of time. I've got people that that I placed in positions over 10 years ago that I still keep in contact with.
Wow, that's really cool.
Because I've built up some really good relationships with them, and I take it very personally for those that see a recruiter as someone, as a career coach, someone as a career guide, not just, hey, here's my resume, get me a job, but someone that can actually coach you and do a lot of good for you.
Well, I mean, speaking from personal experience, you certainly helped me out. I mean, you got me out of, I was working at Waffle House just waiting to see if you could help me get back into the firm. So, no, yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully it was a good decision for the business.
It's always good to have you part of the business.
Yeah. So I said I wanted to go back to some of the aspects of your role. One of the things I think, so our viewers out there or listeners, I think that they might want to know from the recruiter's point of view, what are some big faux pas that you see if someone's trying to apply for a job? What are some like pet peeves that'll shut them down?
Wow. It's a long, long list.
All right, how about like top few lately?
Top few.
Yeah.
Top few line, because there's so many different resources out there that really kind of break the ability of someone that doesn't want to be honest about their career background, whether they were terminated, whether they quit, whether they really didn't work somewhere, especially in our industry where you're licensed and there's public records out there
you can
tracking
yeah.
everything that you've done, down to.
So they think you're not going to follow up or do that research? Is what's in their mind?
There's a lot of folks that don't realize it. I mean, even if you tell them right from the very beginning, there's a background check that's going to be involved. Is there anything that I need to know about? And they tell you, no, there's nothing to worry about. And then the background check come back and you have a felony. And, I didn't think that was going to come up.
Oh, I forgot that I had a felony.
Forgot. Or
that's supposed to be expunged.
Yeah, that's supposed to be expunged. So lying is definitely a very big one. I think another one is.
Do you call them up and ask them about that, or do you just let them like, you know what, they lied to me, I'm just gonna drop the resume out?
No, I ask them. Yeah, because.
What's the craziest thing someone said when you sort of jammed them up like that?
Man, that's a tough question over this many years. Craziest thing.
Or, I mean, it could be something recent, sort of silly, weird thing that happened.
Probably that they didn't think it was going to come up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Didn't think it was going to come up at all. So
they usually come clean with you once you expose it? Or did you ever get someone that just wants to deny it to the end?
Probably the biggest things that they end up denying is that they were terminated, and in their mind they walked away as a mutual agreement. And that is probably one of the biggest things. This week I've talked to 3 folks already that have said
terminated.
I left as a mutual agreement. And it always comes down to, well, if I called them and asked them as a verification of employment, what would they say? Would they say it was a mutual agreement, or would they say that they terminated you? Well, they'd probably say that I was terminated. Well, so you were terminated. It wasn't a mutual agreement.
So do employers actually give you that kind of information when you call them?
It depends upon the employer. There are many companies now that will not release that information because it could put them in a situation that brings them to court, brings them under suit.
Well, why? Isn't that their business to tell those things as an employer?
Yeah, it's their business to tell it, but they also don't want to get into a libel situation. So they really cut it down to even our company now that pays another company to give a toll-free number, and here's our company code, and the only things that we're going to say to whoever calls is, yes, you worked here, and whether you left on good terms or not. Some companies won't even give you that. Yes, he worked there, and that's it.
Wow.
Some companies will actually
Are
verify
they
the
worried about
compensation.
slander or something?
A lot of things they're worried about. The more they can just bypass that piece of it and just verify, yeah, they worked here, then the less they have to end up worrying about.
Yeah.
The days of the actual reference checks, especially with larger companies, doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Smaller companies, yeah, they'll pick up the phone and still call and do a reference check, but larger companies won't. Because ultimately, you've got an extensive background investigation that really covers a lot of things.
Oh, I see. Huh. So what else? Like when you look at, yeah, what else is a deal breaker? So lying, number one, is a
Lying,
big one.
yep. Not doing your research on the company,
Yeah. Okay.
not knowing anything about it at all. You're just throwing your resume everywhere, and when you ask them about why they applied, they can't even remember that they applied. Then it really shows a disinterest in the position itself. You're just spamming your resume in places.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people maybe lose sight of that. I remember when I got laid off from the oil fields. My job. It was in 2009, which was a terrible time to be laid off, because everybody else was too. And I remember it was like a full-time job applying for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I had to go pull up a company, look at what they did, read about them, and a lot of times they're pretty boring. And it's like I just need a job. Like I will learn to do whatever you tell me to do. Just give me a freaking job. And so I'm like reading all these things and doing all this research and just getting. I mean, it's exhausting. It's a lot of work, and I can imagine that people would just spam out their resumes, and like I would have to create a custom resume for each of these jobs so it sound good
Yep.
per job, or whatever, and highlight specific skills. And
Exactly.
what a
what you
pain in
should
the
do.
ass! It's
Yeah.
such a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm. And the smart ones that are doing that many applications create a spreadsheet, and they are able to pull up the spreadsheet and know exactly what in the world that they applied to,
Yeah.
and what progress they are with that particular position. So you're absolutely right. It can be a very much a full-time job.
Yeah. So let's go back to wait. I think you said it, but I probably forgot. What were you doing in the military? Like, what was your role?
So the first half was infantry, so combat arms. And then the second half I transitioned over to transportation, which working on the big cranes like up at um, here at the terminal, Jack's terminal,
Okay.
loading off the big containers
Oh,
off the
wow.
ships. Yeah, so those cranes, working on those.
Work like fixing them or
No, like
go
actually
using
operating
operating them.
them.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So how? So I grew up a military brat, but I never actually joined the military. I got a chance to join I got accepted to the Air Force Academy, but then I was an idiot and decided to get married instead. I mean, sometimes it's one of those moments where you wish your parents would have slapped you in the head and said, "No, don't do something like that." But I mean, I can't. Who knows? Who knows what the world would have been like had I taken that other path? Might be worse. I don't know. I don't know.
That'd be worse.
I mean, I don't know. Not worse, but it'd be different. I think I'd be in a different place
Yeah.
for sure.
You wouldn't have a ponytail now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would have a ponytail. Yeah, yeah. So how do you think? How has your time in the military affected your life? Would you say?
Countless ways. I mean, really countless ways. It gives you a structure. It gives you organization. For those that really embrace it and have strong leaders, that's the byproduct of it. Is that you come out and you have that stability, you have that dependability that others may not necessarily have, that haven't been put into that type of environment to where you're absolutely critical to that role. If you fail, everybody fails. People can literally die because you failed at your job.
Yeah.
So it definitely created more stability, more organization with me, more discipline than I ever had before. And I went into the military with a really bad attitude and bad temper, and got that from my father. But that got nipped in the bud right away, and from that point forward, it's either going to make you or it's going to end up shipping you out.
Yeah.
Because you can't adapt to it. So it definitely put me to where I am now, especially with my work ethic.
Yeah.
And just being tireless with it all the time.
Man, you know, I wonder if I spent some time in the Air National Guard, but not very much at all. And I wonder if I had spent that time, or spent some time in the military, if it would have changed me. You know, because I sometimes wonder about my work ethic and wonder about, like, because I feel like I juggle a million things, but I could do it better. I could be more efficient. I could be more structured and disciplined, but I know these things, but yet I don't do the things that I know I need to do.
Right.
Maybe I don't know. I need a, what do you call it, like a hierarchy, or someone in a higher pay grade to yell at me and tell me to do these things, and maybe that's all I need.
We can arrange that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, as long as I don't have to pay them, we might be able to work this out.
Yeah.
So do you think that being in the military has affected how you raise your kids? You've got some kids, right?
I've got 2 kids.
Yep.
So 17-year-old and 15-year-old. And I think so. Because they're raised around rules. They're raised around discipline. Certainly not the level that I went through with the military.
Sure. Yeah.
But still to a certain extent, that it's not a free for all. There are still guidelines. There's still rules. There's still things that you need to abide in this household.
Sure.
This is how you take care of yourself. This is how it affects everybody around when you don't take care of yourself. And so a lot of that really transferred over to them.
How do you think? How do you? Well, I'm trying to think how to say this. So what do you think about outside influences on, so you raise your kids in your household with these rules and the guidelines and et cetera. What about what they're exposed to in the rest of society? What's your sort of take on that? Or what are some of your concerns about that?
Well, there's a number of concerns there because there's not enough time in the day to be able to track it all.
Mm-hmm.
Technology nowadays is the absolute devil when it comes to kids.
It's just what do you think? It's giving them too much freedom or something like that?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of freedom, and a lot of it is very difficult to track unless you sit there and you monitor it all day, every day.
Yeah.
Because they're either on the computer or they're on their phones all day, every day. And a lot of it is you hoping that your upbringing kind of sticks with them, and the outside influence of those that were not brought up the same way doesn't overpower their sense of right and wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is faith. A lot of it is stepping in when you see that something is creeping in that shouldn't be getting in, and stopping it. But other things are just kind of praying that everything goes well.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what else can you do about it? Like you said, you can't follow them around and be on their shoulder.
You probably could. I mean, if you
with technology.
With technology, yeah. I mean, you could put a tracking system on them, and,
sure.
and I can monitor your phones, and I can do a phone check every day. But with things, like Snapchat, where you send pictures and it instantly deletes itself.
Yeah.
I mean, the days of finding the pictures on the cell phone are over, and a lot of them are so intelligent that they know how to get rid of the stuff before you can even find it.
How to hide the evidence and all that.
Yeah. So it can be a big influence on the outside.
Yeah. I was going to ask you something else. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that must be pretty challenging to think about those things and know that you're raising them a certain way. But everybody runs into that, I'm sure. You've got your set of ideals, and then you sort of expose your kids to the world, who may or may not share those same views. Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, so those of you guys listening out there, looks like we actually have 4 people listening right now. Join in on the conversation. The whole premise of this show is, I'm talking to Art about some things that you can hear right now. But if you want to ask him a question, you want to ask me a question, or you don't agree with something, or you agree with something, share your story, give us a call, 904-638-5119. You can also write into the chat stream. So if you're listening, just go back to the website that you're listening on, and there is a social stream section off to the right. You can click in there and write in something. If you want to write in a question, if you're a little shy, don't want to call in, you can just write something there, and we'll address it. So cool. So what are you doing nowadays for like what are some of your hobbies, man?
It's all about the bike.
Mm.
That's it. The Harley is the only hobby that I can afford to stay involved with.
If you could do anything, like money wasn't an issue, what would be your hobby?
Wow. If money wasn't an object, I mean that I wouldn't be required to work all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it would probably be taking that bike on.
So you just
long
go
rides.
on all these long rides on the bike?
Going to some of the best places in this country to go to.
Yeah. So speaking of the bike, I know you're working on some custom modifications on that. Tell me about, or tell us all about what's going on with that.
Yeah, the fairing. So, have got it almost complete. I know you stopped by the shop this weekend, took a look at where it was at. It's on the bike, at least the inner fairing is on the bike now. Stereo is fully hooked up on it.
And for those of you guys out there that don't know what a fairing is, it's imagine a motorcycle, and it's got a sort of like a windscreen, but then it's extended out so that it's like blocks the wind. So you have a windscreen component, and then you have sort of this, I guess you could call it like a shield-ish kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the bike. It sort of extends from the headlight back to along the handlebars. If you saw what Harley comes with a fairing already? Did yours already? It didn't have a fairing.
No, it didn't have one.
Yeah.
It's not on the Softails like that, but like the Road Glides, the Street Glides, Road Kings, any of the big touring bikes, it comes standard on.
Okay, so so go look up one of those bikes and you'll see what we're talking about. So he's actually building by hand, right? That I know,
Right.
A fairing, and he's got a pretty sick audio setup in there. It's pretty cool. I've never seen anything like that. This is like car audio intense. But it's all fit in this very small area in this fairing. So it's really cool. I'm guessing you're pretty excited to ride around with that.
I can't wait to get it on the road and hear it while it's riding.
Yeah,
It sounds great sitting there, but it's just going to be even better once everything is fully together. Because speakers they sound great, okay, when they're open enclosure, but once you put them in a sealed enclosure or close to sealed, they really take on a totally different sound. So I'm excited about getting it together and getting it on the road and hearing it. I've always been a big audiophile, man. I love music. I love loud music. And, I had it in the Caddy, and there's so many.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember your Cadillac would be bumping at work. Yeah.
So many people at work knew me from that Cadillac. It was crazy.
Wait, do you not have the Cadillac anymore?
No, it's gone.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's
What
gone.
did something take its place?
No, just my Honda that I've got now. But I haven't put any stereo in that yet. Yeah.
I see.
That's upcoming. Once I get the bike done, then I got to do something in that car.
Yeah.
I gotta have louder music.
Yeah, I was the same way, man. I'm driving around on this in this Toyota Corolla, and once I started getting, so we were last week we were talking about EDM and stuff, so I was getting into dubstep and
Oh yeah.
and some of this other electronica, and I was like, man, I can't just listen to this on the stock speakers anymore. So I actually still had the subs I had in high school, and
Wow.
yeah, there's these Pioneer. I don't think they don't make them anymore like the same way, but they were some of the best ones I could get in Japan on the bass.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
there was very slim pickings. You didn't get very much, and so they're so by U.S. standards they weren't very awesome, but they still rattle the car. It's just two 10-inch subs in individual bandpass boxes. They take up almost my entire trunk of this Corolla. And then I replaced all the other speakers and and whatever. And so now I can feel fulfilled listening to to some dubstep or old hip hop and stuff like that. I was missing all this drama from like those
It
all the
doesn't do it
builds
justice,
and
man.
yeah, the builds and the drops and all that. You got to have the bass. You got to feel that music.
You got to.
Makes a big deal.
Yeah, it sure does. And
Uh.
and bikes, man, are getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
If you can imagine it, you can probably make it happen on the bike, and you build bikes. So
Well, I'm trying, but yeah, I mean, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff, But sometimes I think you start pushing practicality
right.
when you start making it crazy, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Rico Two Nout. I wonder what that means. Anyways, asking Art, have you ever thought about going cross country in a bike or on a bike? I'm guessing. Is that on a bucket list? Going across the whole country?
Yeah, it is on the bucket list actually.
Yeah. Where would you start here and then just go out to Cali somewhere?
I would go here. Well, I would start here, but I would actually cut up through Georgia into Tennessee and hit Blue Ridge Parkway
Whoa.
and take it out Midwest to where you really get to see the scenery, the mountains, things of that nature.
Wow.
Yeah, I would
So
love
sort of
to
a
go do
scenic
that.
route across the entire. You don't think that you would be sort of, I don't know, on the sixth day or something like? How long do you think it would take you to go across the whole country?
I don't know. I mean, if I was to do that, I would probably end up taking a couple weeks off and not be pushed. Just go and have periodic stops already planned,
Yeah.
so I know where I'm going to end up stopping at, and then just enjoy the ride. Or really step out of my comfort zone and not even plan it.
Oh God.
Just not even plan it, which is very difficult for me because it's just not my style. I'm a planner, but knowing kind of a direction that I wanted to go in and just ride until I'm tired. All right, I'm tired. I'm gonna stop at this hotel and get up the next day and get back on it again.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of friends that have done that, and they just talk about it all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like once I hit the point of no return, I would probably it would be more of sucking it up, just sort of like, all right, you got yourself in this mess, just ride until you're done,
No, I mean that's a good question. I would love to ride across the country like that and be able to see the scenery.
Yeah.
It doesn't compare to being in a car. You just can't enjoy it the same way.
Well, one of these days when I can actually finish a motorcycle, I'm going to my goal is to participate in the Stampede, which Backstreet Choppers sponsors it, and it's a cannonball run across the United States where they map out the course, but it's basically straight across. But I mean, you're in a race, so
yeah.
you gotta it's pressure's on, and they
See, that's not what I want to do.
I don't know how many. I think they said it was 120 hours for a lot of these guys, 100 and change hours to make it all the way across. And some of these guys are riding for a really long time. I mean, it sounds like the stories they say are they're riding. I mean, they say it sounds like they have some fun. Sometimes they'll stop early and just take a break that night or whatever. And etc. But I mean, it is a Cannonball Run, so there's probably somebody out there that's super hardcore and they just want to win and they
Oh
don't
yeah,
care.
of course. My fear is that I'm pushing the bike so hard that it breaks, and then I'm stuck out the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's not
That's
where
a
I want to
scary
be.
proposition. Yeah, reading some of the articles about guys that have done it. That's the thing, because a lot of these guys in the Stampede, for instance, these guys are chopping their own bikes, they're custom
Oh, yeah.
bikes, backyard builds and stuff, and these things are falling apart constantly.
I can imagine.
And so when I'm going to build a bike specifically for the Stampede, so that I know that it's I know that it's something that hopefully it won't break down on me, and it gets good gas mileage, so I don't have to constantly stop for gas. Like some of these custom bikes have,
Yeah, the very
have
small
to do that.
tanks.
Small tanks and whatnot. They're not really built for efficiency. What was I going to say? Oh, I just got a message from Raul. He wants to know, why is it so difficult to find good employees in Jacksonville? Do you agree with that?
Wow. Well, that's pretty broad. That was Raul.
Yeah, well, because actually, for those out there, Raul Sanchez has been on the show before. He was going to tune in, or he was going to Skype in as a guest. In fact, by the way, if you want to be a guest on the show, send me a message on the Boyd podcast at gmail.com. I'll write it into the chat stream. Even if you don't live here in Jacksonville, you can still Skype in and you'll be on the show. It's all audio only, so you don't have to worry about people seeing your face or whatever on Skype, etc. But anyway, so he just texted me and told me that he's not going to be on, which I think we gathered that by now. But he was asking about that. Do you think the Jacksonville area is devoid of talent?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I hope not, because I'm a product of, of that,
Yeah. There's a couple of things that drive the overall market when it comes to employment. One is the number of companies in that same industry that are in that same vicinity.
Okay, that makes sense.
And how many of them are doing hiring all at the same time? Because the market's only going to produce so much talent. And if you have multiple large companies that are recruiting the same types of roles all at the same time, the pool runs dry very quickly. And we saw that when we were hiring from 2006 to 2008, where it was hiring every single month.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
At a certain point, the market is just not going to be able to keep up with that demand.
Mm-hmm. You start fishing out the ocean, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you really have to start switching it up, and we actually started switching up a little bit by having dedicated new grad classes to where it was specifically focused on new graduates.
Oh, I see.
So that way we weren't always recruiting on experienced talent, and that was the only thing that we were pulling in or trying to pull in. So you have to be able to adapt on what the marketplace is giving you, and when you're going at it tough up against several large companies in the same role, it is going to become difficult. And then you'll start running against retreads or people that are wanting to come back after they've been terminated, or folks that
after
couldn't
they've
make
gone
it somewhere else.
No, yeah.
And
Do you look at them differently?
what's that?
Do you treat them a little differently? Like, you had a chance to come here, you went there, and it sucked, and now you're coming back. Do you sort of make them crawl through the doggy door a little bit?
No.
Really?
I mean, it's a good feeling that, hey, we want you to go out, and if you feel that the grass is greener on the other side, go ahead and test it. Because although you and I feel it's a great company, it may not be right for everybody.
Sure.
And something else may be better for them particularly. But those that go and try it and realize, nah, it's not it at all, I want to come back and with a better fit. If they performed well, they were somebody that we hated losing, then we definitely accept them back, because them themselves kind of bring a story that others may end up wanting to hear about.
Okay. Well, cool. That's pretty. That's pretty interesting. I think we a lot of times we look at it from our perspective, like, oh well, they're just not, of course you're going to choose the spot that fits you the best, but how do you know? Just like a recruiter doesn't know exactly who they're hiring. You do your best, you do your due diligence, but when they get in the role, that's when it really shows.
Yeah.
Just like when you're a person looking for a job, you don't really know what the job is till you get, unless you've done it. And even then, if you do it in a new environment, it could be different.
Yeah. I mean, you look at interviews. Interviews are an hour long. You might actually be able to speak to them 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours if you have multiple conversations throughout the recruiting process. How well do you really get to know that individual from an hour to 4 hours to determine on what their work ethic is, how successful they're going to be?
Yeah.
A lot of it is gamble and risk and looking at what their past has been able to produce. So you're kind of hoping that it turns out the same way.
Gotcha. So, by the way, Art, something I probably should explain is, unfortunately, sorry guys out there, if you are subject to commercials during this show, that's because I don't want to go what they call pro on Ustream, which costs $99 a month, which is stupid. Why can't they just give me an entry level that's not $99 a month? That's a lot. Anyway, so if you ran into some ads when you were watching this, I apologize. So what ends up happening is the show gets delayed during the ad, and so some the things we're talking about now, people are just now or they're going to hear about it in a few minutes. So some of the questions coming in might be about topics that we were already talking about in the past. So going back in the past a little bit. NYC, I don't even know what that is, but so the question is, how does designing the perfect ride relate to your goals and desires for your life? Now, who's that question for? I guess both of us could answer that, but also, what does ride mean? I mean, I wonder
Is
if
that
that
more like
means
a motorcycle?
like a motorcycle, the ride,
Yeah, the
like
ride itself?
the ride that you would go on, or the thing that you'll be riding, I guess would be the
that's a
clarifying
good-
question I need to get answered
Yeah, because
first.
the answers are completely
I guess
different.
let's go with both. I guess so. So on that note, so you got this bucket list item. You've got to go across the country. You want to get riding is a big passion of yours. Getting out. So how much does making your bike the perfect fit into those goals?
Well, one, I think anybody that's going to ride a long distance, the comfort is number one, and having the things that makes them enjoy the ride even more. For me, it's music.
Yeah.
I've got to have music along the ride. I've got to have a comfortable seat for my ass for that damn long of a ride. I've got to have storage space for my junk to go in my clothes. All of that makes the ride very enjoyable, and not wish that I hurry up and get to my next stop.
Oh, okay. So the clarification was the bike.
Yep. Yeah. So that's it. I mean, when I'm thinking about that fairing,
Yeah.
and putting more speakers than your average fairing in it, is because I love music. When I'm doing 70, 80 miles per hour on the interstate, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
I want to feel it, and that's what keeps me interested, keeps me going on that ride, is that music itself. And that's no different than me sitting in my office all day long. I'm streaming music all day long.
Yeah.
Because it keeps me motivated and keeps me interested in what I'm doing.
What do you predominantly listen to?
During the day?
Yeah. I mean, obviously DJ Doc Rock for some. But,
Right. I mean, it's
what-
anywhere from
yeah.
hip hop to EDM, trance.
Mhm.
That's predominantly what I listen to.
Well, that's cool. All right, so we got some more questions here. Going back to the recruiting question, what would you tell a recent grad in order to differentiate them from a candidate with experience?
It's a good question. So a lot of it is, just because the individual has experience doesn't mean that makes them the right fit for the role. A lot of it is their proactive work on learning what the role is about, learning the things that is a part of that role, especially if it requires licenses, someone could have experience working but may not have a license, and a new grad has done all types of research on the licenses. They've really been proactive. They really seem passionate about it. Whereas some folks just think, well, I'm experienced and that's
And
it.
that's enough.
That's enough. The recent grads that I work with, I encourage them to reach out and start to network with individuals within that company. That really kind of sets you apart from others. And as I said, just because you have experience doesn't mean that you're going to be a fit. It's funny that question came up. There was an instance where I've actually today turned down an individual that was licensed already, and we hired someone that was unlicensed into the role.
Oh, wow.
And his perspective was that, I'm shocked. I'm actually kind of overqualified for the role. Why didn't you hire me? What was the justification of hiring someone else? And that attitude alone kind of would take you out of the running.
Sort of an entitlement.
Yeah,
attitude.
entitlement. Yep. But that person that didn't have the licenses were so passionate, so eager to get into that role, they
Yeah.
wanted it more. So
And they were willing to do the research they need to do.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, so that's the biggest thing, is being able to network and being able to show why you're different than others. How hard
Yeah,
you're
so
going to work
you
for it.
have to proactively do these things. I think that's probably something that a lot of people either don't know how to do or don't think that they need to do for some reason. It feels like that anyway.
Well, with
When I
social
talk
media
to
now, with
people.
LinkedIn,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason why you can't connect with somebody within a company and start to introduce yourself, start to really kind of build up the relationship you have with someone in there, and then leverage that. Hey, this is where I want to go. Who can you introduce me to? Who can I talk to learn more about that?
That makes so much sense, but I bet there's so many people that aren't doing that.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people out there that don't do it. A lot of people. There's people within our own building that don't do it, that come and ask me, how do I get into a branch?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, where you want to go? Well, this is the branch I want to go. Well, have you called in and talked to the branch manager? No. Why not?
Yeah.
You already work for us. Why wouldn't you call and introduce yourself?
Yeah.
I can do that?
Within even the company itself.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I was talking to somebody, what was I going to say? I was talking to someone who recently applied for a role within the firm, and they were pretty frustrated that they didn't get an interview. And then I had to ask, well, what about what did you do prior to sending in your resume? Did you talk to anybody? Did you set up some time to figure out more about the role? Or even because this person had done the same job in the past, and so they just assumed that because they have experience that they should be the one hired, like that entitlement mentality that you were talking about. And I kept trying to explain to them that it doesn't work that way. Just because you have experience, they might say, you know what, the path that I would prefer that you took, even if you have experience, is to start from this entry level role. And then use your experience to show me how awesome you are.
All right.
I'm not going to hire you into a high level role or an important role without knowing a little bit more about you. But they just were so perturbed that somebody would, have the nerve to turn them down,
Yeah.
even though they have experience. And I think it just goes to show you need more than just that experience. You need to be able to. Because anybody could say they've got experience.
Right.
And it's easy to say all sorts of stuff. I could tell someone, yeah, I've got experience dragon slaying, and oh man, the big dragon, outbreak of 2010, man, I was right there in the thick of it. What are you talking about? Well, just believe me, I was there. So.
And it's also
yeah.
interpersonal. How are you going to fit in with the team?
Yeah.
And I don't want to bring someone in that is not going to gel with the team that I have currently in place right now. I need
Right.
somebody that's got that personality that's going to come in and fit in perfectly. that is beyond what some people can even think about. How
Absolutely.
does that work?
Yeah.
But if you're already complaining on why you didn't get the job, just think about how much complaining you're going to do
When
once you
you're
get
in the
in
job.
and I pass you up for a promotion or something.
Oh man, you know what? You're hitting some vital nerves right there, because that's exactly true, absolutely true, and yeah, I mean you're like you're almost clairvoyant at this point, unless you know exactly who the person I'm talking about and you know this situation. It's like, well, you know, you might have experience, but do they want to work with you?
Yeah.
That's the big question you got to ask. And it's not that when they're the one doing the hiring, they're not the ones thinking about how can I bend to you. You know, it's crazy sometimes that you know. So what some folks expect and what they might not be so grateful for, you know,
Yeah.
to have opportunities to learn and to get, you know, or the same person was sort of complaining that, you know, well, they told me I should apply for whatever I want, and here I go and do it, and I don't even get to get an interview, and they told me that they would rather see me do this other thing first, you know, come in as a loan or come in as an intern or do some time, but I've already done the job, so I don't want to have to do it again. And to me, it's like, well, it sounds to me like they're giving you a pretty clear path of what you need to do to get that job. So you should be pretty happy that they're telling you, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Some people, it's just not. It's never enough unless they just get their way, I guess.
It's never enough. I mean, they don't listen during interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, for instance, you know, one candidate was applying for one position but kept on talking about growth beyond that. And the hiring manager said, "This is the role right here," very softly. "These are the roles. This is the responsibilities of the role." Well, I want to talk about the role beyond that. What about growth beyond that position? We can talk about that. This is the role, you know, in a little bit more forceful.
Yeah.
Once again, yeah, I understand that. Can you tell me about the growth beyond that role right there? And then the third time, this is the role that I'm interviewing you for, not anything else. This is it.
Wow.
And because they couldn't view the role they're interviewing for, they were so focused on beyond that, they didn't get hired.
Wow.
So-
Yeah, that's. I wonder if in their mind they thought they were doing a good thing.
Yes. And funny you say that, because when I coached the person afterwards, this is the why you didn't get hired. Well, that was what I was coached on, that I should talk about growth and I should talk about where I want to go. Yeah, but it's about how you frame it.
Right.
You know, you can't keep talking about growth because you haven't proven yourself in step 1 yet.
Yeah.
Why am I going to tell you about step 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Yeah.
You need to focus on 1 first, and then we can talk about moving.
How much do you think some of these faux pas that people do are the result of bad coaching?
Some of it is. So it really is, unfortunately. I mean, between current managers, between friends, between coworkers, between the web, it's bad. I mean, it really is bad. And in their mind, they think, "Oh, I'm getting experienced coaching."
Yeah.
I've ran into individuals. Well, you know, relocation is $10,000, right? No, you're not getting paid that much. Well, that's what so and so made. They're lying to you.
Yeah.
They didn't
Or-
get paid that much
Yeah.
to reload.
Uh-huh.
And well, I'm gonna have to go back. Yeah, you're gonna have to go back and talk to them because they really led you wrong. They do get that, but they don't know any better.
Mm.
They feel, well, this person's got more experience doing it than me. They have
Or
to
they're
be
in
telling me
the
the
position
truth.
I'd like to be in, or
Yeah.
they emulate them in some way,
Yeah.
probably.
And it's unfortunate because they follow some of that bad guidance. And
Do you ever do any like workshops or anything to help people really get the real skinny on what?
I
what
did
it
workshops out at UNF.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did workshops out there for them. Hmm.
I wonder what that would be like at work, or if there was like something where people could get the real deal on what. Well, I mean, so hopefully you would hope that your manager would be able to coach you through that.
You would think, but
Yeah.
sometimes the manager.
Sometimes the managers don't really know.
like the one that was talking about growth all the time. Their manager is the one that coached them.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
Maybe they missed the point, though.
I think so. I mean, it didn't frame it right.
Yeah.
You know, it's great that you have that drive and you want to grow, but you say it and then that's it. You don't keep harping on it. All right, I got it. You want to move past this point, but you haven't even got to this point yet.
So for our listeners out there that no, there's a pretty good question on there. But before I get to this question, oh wait, now I don't remember what I was going to ask you. All right, so NYC and then a bunch of consonants in one vowel. Are you are versed in recruiting and coaching your candidates? What are your plans for your own career?
Wow.
So this is from NYC.
I'm curious as to who that is.
YC.
What are your plans for your own? That's a great question. At one point, I thought that I wanted to move further into HR and do generalist work. But as I thought about it more and more, I think it takes me away from my passion and why I see recruiting as being so beneficial. Two prongs there with the business and the individual. I think now it's just continue to grow on my craft.
Yeah.
And continue to get better at what I do. And even after 10 years of doing it, there's things that I can continue to get better and better at. And as long as I'm able to do that, then I'm okay. I feel that I'm always challenged. And
What's something that you, well, if you don't mind, what's something that you're working on now?
probably a little bit better organization, and probably the biggest things is trying to be a little bit more proactive because of the space that I'm recruiting for now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all reactive. The more proactive work that you can do, the better off you are. But because it's so much that's reactive, it's difficult sometimes to find the time to be proactive and get ahead of the need.
Okay.
And that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to fine tune.
For the departments you're hiring for, kind of thing?
For the branches that I'm hiring for. And being in the role for 1 year, now I know the trends, I know the pace on what's going to be going on a regular basis. Now it's, okay, how can I do things a little more efficiently? Because it's completely different than just sourcing for Jacksonville.
I see.
I mean, it's worlds apart. So the way I've been successful for 5 years is not the same way that I need to be successful moving forward.
You're having to adapt to these new environments.
Have to adapt to new requirements, new needs, new demands,
Yeah.
and new clients that have a higher level need than what we've done here in Jax.
Gotcha. So NYC again comes on and says, so it likens this process to building a bike, I guess. We're always working towards perfection, right? I do remember the question I wanted to do, because we're probably going to go ahead and close out the show here in a little bit. But one last question: so for the people that are listening live or checking us on the archives, if they're out there either wanting to move up in a role or get a promotion or getting a new job where they want to further their career or do something different, what's one big piece of advice that you could give them that'll help them be successful as a recruiter?
So someone that's wanting to move up.
Like, someone might be listening and they're not really in the place they want to be as far as their career. Maybe they need to move to another company. Maybe they need to move within their company. Maybe they're unemployed right now. What's something? I mean, and you can give me different. I mean, because I know the situations would be different. If you've been unemployed for the last year, it's a little different than if you're working a job and you just want to get a promotion.
Right.
So, what's a if there could be something that you would say to them to help them, what would that be?
So for those that are not working, that are unemployed, I would suggest to them identify the types of roles that you want to be in, but be very flexible. Understand what's one notch below that role that you're targeting, and be open to accepting that in order to be able to get back into the workforce. For those that are looking for a promotion up, connect with those individuals that are in the role currently right now and really learn from them. Identify what makes them successful, what their path was, and then leverage some of those things that they're good at that you may not be good at and work on it in order for you to be able to get into that position that you want to be promoted into.
I guess that starts with having honesty about yourself then too, huh?
You gotta have you gotta be open and honest and do a good self check. You may think that you got all the boxes checked and ready to move into that next role, but someone looking on the outside may not necessarily see that.
How often do you think that? I mean, in your take, how does that happen? Quite a bit, where people think that they're in a better off place than they really are.
Probably more times than not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the best way for someone to gauge that so they don't stumble into a situation where they're trying to reach too high or too soon?
Hopefully you have a good relationship with your manager or a peer, and feeling good enough to come and ask them, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. What are your thoughts, impressions of, the skills that are required to go into that role? Do I have those? And being open to taking that feedback and being able to work on it. But the key thing is addressing it with someone that's going to give you honest feedback and not just say, "Oh yeah, you're right."
Yeah. I think that's something where we a lot of times I think people don't appreciate the honest feedback, and then and a lot of times we certainly don't seek it, and then when we seek it, I don't think a lot of people give it.
They don't give it; they're afraid.
Yeah, because they're afraid of hurting your feelings.
And then when they do give it, then some of us become defensive.
Yeah.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with you.
Yeah.
I thought we were better than that. And it's because, all right, well, you were seeking it, but you just don't want to accept it now.
Yeah.
And you have to be open and accepting that other person's feedback. And if you don't agree with it, okay, then seek someone else's and see if it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes a ton of sense. Ricardo, who has now revealed his identity via the social stream, so now we know who he is. Big shout out to Art, giving him a shot at the FSU Career Fair. So again, coming full circle back around, he's listening to you, and the reason he's listening to you is because you gave him a shot. Because otherwise he wouldn't even know. Like this connection would never have been made. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome,
cool.
and you're welcome. You're welcome. That certainly makes it all worth it right there.
Oh yeah, and I taught his branch class too. So. Connections all over the place.
That's good stuff.
Hey,
man.
Ricardo, thanks for listening, man. I appreciate it, and everybody listening. I really appreciate this. I mean, my dog's walking around. There's noise everywhere. It's filmed. I mean, not filmed. It's recorded in my living room. There's not even a studio. This is, and it's a really cool experience being on the show and doing this thing. And hopefully you guys get something out of it. Like tonight's show, I think I got a lot of insight from a recruiter's point of view, what they're looking at, and just interesting hearing Art's sort of journey up to where he is and what's going on. And I think it just goes to show that the people around you are just as interesting as the people that you see on TV or, you know, they've got awesome stories, don't get me wrong, but I think people that you know have awesome stories. And I think it's a cool thing to be able to have people like Art on the show. And thank you, Art, for being
thank
on
you.
the show. And I think it's really cool just to learn from them. Though, for those of you guys that are still listening, should have called in. Would have loved to hear some questions from the crowd. It's not too late. I'll take a call until I turn the music on. Once the music on, it's done. But it's really cool. And like I said, if you want to be on the show, you want to tell your story, or if there's something in particular you want to talk about, hit me up. I put the email in the chat stream. It's theboydpodcast@gmail.com. Just send me a request. We'll set up a time, and we'll go from there. And we never have a agenda other than whatever agenda you want to push. So I don't really want to push an agenda, but anyway, we can talk about whatever you want. So, but thanks for listening to Boyd. Another great episode. Really excited, and I'll leave you with DJ Doc Rock. Peace out, y'all.
DJ Doc Rock. Is what you got.